How are y'all? Carrie, our first question was about the sculptural elements in your work. They're so unique, and you're able to do it with your armatures that you build. So we were wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that is and how it allows you to create the sculptural effects in your works.
The armatures. So in order to sort of really kind of amp up the dimension, like the dimension of the surface, we build, they're essentially like interior frames, but they have beveled edges and a plywood backing that allows me to sort of wrap the fabric and attach it in that way where nobody can really see how the attachment is happening, and it's sort of concealed. That's what's underneath the fabric. And so in sculpture, I did a lot of sculptural work before I went sort of back into the painting, but the armature is sort of whatever kind of sculptural form that the media then is applied on top of. So in the case of the fabric works, the armature is sort of twofold because the fabric itself then becomes armature. You know, it's the sculptural form before the paint is applied. And I think that's something I'm still exploring. You know, I've made circular armatures and I've wrapped fabric around sort of less recognizable shapes before too. So I think there's lots of different possibilities with how the fabric could get wrapped.
So I guess leading into my question is, how did you figure out how to do this?
Sure.
How did it happen?
Yeah. In undergraduate school, I was making sort of large, kind of abstract expressionist painting. I just wanted to make everything bigger. And then I started building my own stretcher bars and stretching my own canvas. And I liked the sort of physicality of making sculpture and that size work. And then as I started to experiment more with sculpture, I wanted to bring elements of that into my paintings. So the first thing I did was I started layering up a traditional canvas with 2, 3, 4 layers of like cotton duck canvas, just regular canvas. And I would cut into that and I would rip the canvas. And then, you know, canvas, because of its traditional weave, you can only rip vertically or horizontally. So it had more of this kind of woven effect to it. And I felt limited by that at some point. So then I just was like, well, why couldn't I experiment with other fabrics? And so that led me to using the fabric that I use now. Eventually, a bunch of different iterations of that fabric, but fabric that's got a little bit more give. So I can really kind of accentuate a pleated surface, and it's more malleable than traditional canvas.
So what type of fabric is it?
It's a synthetic fabric that's got some stretch to it. I use a couple different types depending on the specific work. And so because it has more give than traditional canvas, we have to layer it up with more medium, because I mean, they have almost a leathery texture in their final state. And so but that's a layer of professional medium, and then 3 or 4 layers of gesso mixed with medium, and then a final layer of gesso before the paint actually ever touches the surface. So it's a lot of prep work to that fabric to then get it to the texture it is.
Yeah, they're very unique. I mean, I never really had seen anything like this. Yeah, this one almost has like a gradation of colors.
Yeah, so we wanted to ask you about your use of color too. We know obviously it's an important part of your work. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with color and how you go about choosing color and choosing the composition of the colors?
Sure. So prior to the work in the sort of style that I've been making them now, and the work that you all have, a lot of the color composition was dictated more by the form itself, the fabric form itself. And when I say that, it was kind of just like explosions, more expressionistic, a whole lot looser than the works you see now. And then moving on from there, I just was really interested in these sort of blockier color fields, because I think the folds do something interesting to the colors in relationship to each other. With that sort of 3-dimensional element, you get changes in light and value, and those colors kind of vibrate next to each other in a way that is different than if it was, you know, kind of like color field painting. I just got really interested in color theory as well. You know, I like interesting color combinations and unexpected combinations. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, there's some colors get a bad rap, you know, and then I just want to challenge myself to change somebody's mind about that color, or, you know, pairing like a neon yellow with like a burnt orange, and like figuring out how that can work in the same piece is really exciting to me. And I spend a lot of time with the color, and I spend a lot of time mixing a lot of colors. So like in these works, what I'll do is I'll sketch out the composition, and sometimes I'll just sketch and make paintings in my head, and then I will build the form. So that's going to really fit into that color blocking. And then sometimes it's the opposite. I won't have a painting in mind. I'll stretch a composition that I'm excited about, that I feel like has really good movement, and then I'll do the color second. So it can go either way, but oftentimes I'll get the form made and I'll get the sketch going and I'll build out a palette of colors. I'll go in and I'll paint every color field on the piece, right? Get the thing painted. And then after that's done, we spend probably 2 or 3 days on each painting, making sure we got every little nook and cranny to make sure it's it's as seamless as we can get them. I mean, if you inspect them close enough, I'm sure you'll find something, but we spend a lot of time trying to play with that idea that people don't know if it was painted before or after, you know?
People ask that all the time, and then I forget. I'm like, stretch, painted, stretch, painted.
I get the works to that point, and then a lot of times Chris, my husband, will help me find all those little spots. And so we'll have a palette of like, you know, you can see like behind me, there's just mixed paint colors everywhere. And we'll have a palette for each piece. And he's like, what is this color? And I'm like, it's this one right here. And he's like, no, it's not. There's no way that color is that color, you know, but it's because of those color relationships, you know, like the temperature of one color can totally make that color look different on the piece than in real life. And I'm endlessly fascinated by it. I feel like color is what can always make the work exciting, even if it's painting 100, you know?
Yeah, even, you know, the ones that you did for us generously in the black and white and the gray, which we just shipped out, but
Yeah,
beautiful composition.
Really cool.
And, you know, these pieces just kind of draw you in. It's like, people, and of course, everybody wants to touch, and you're like, don't touch, but, you know, but they're just lovely. And anyway, thank you, Carrie, so much.
absolutely. I'm excited for New York and find some more stuff for Laguna in due time here, and I can't wait. It's exciting.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to do with us.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. This was fun.